Jeff, Jim, and Carmela, part number 4. The Boeing 707 was a beautiful airplane, and Jeff always referred to it as poetry in motion. He refused to think about the hours these airplanes flew. It was much easier to think the 707 he would depart New York aboard was new, clean, and safe. Even after several hundred hours as a passenger, he was still apprehensive when he walked down the aisle looking for his seat number. Arriving at a cruising altitude was usually the only time he relaxed. He was aware of all the parts of a Boeing 707 and some of the things that could go wrong. This flight would be no different from all the others, but this time he had other things to worry about. Jeff possessed an intellect that allowed him to teach himself most anything. MI7 wanted a person that possessed a special, unique ability. These abilities were not teachable, and for most people was considered God-given talents. When Jeff was interviewed for the job, the questions came as if they knew everything about him. Later he would learn MI7 observed him for a year before contacting him, asking if he wanted to come in for a face-to-face interview. Jeff would laugh when he thought about the personal things they knew about him. He loved this job and company and found the danger and excitement of faraway places satisfying. This assignment to Istanbul would be the most exciting to date, and he was ready to get underway, knowing danger was a part of the prescription. People were beginning to enter the terminal, taking their places among the abundant rows of plastic chairs, bolted together in long lines. This was during a time when airports were wide open spaces and derelicts came to the terminal to escape the weather. The steady stream of passengers, mixed with stragglers, continued to wander in among the throng of ethnicity, wearing all kinds of strange native costumes. This smorgasbord of people always amused Jeff when he was traveling on an overseas assignment. He tried to concentrate on other things, but the variety of people milling around made it almost impossible. It was difficult to focus in on one individual when such a variety existed. A Pakistani man fumbled with what looked like a new leather wallet he was attempting to load with papers from his overfilled jacket pockets. Jeff instinctively knew the Pakistani was a money courier. Then, like a well-orchestrated human play, a housekeeper began shifting the cigarette butts from the large sand-filled ashtrays that were abundant in waiting areas during the 1960s. These large containers were in high demand in and around areas where people waited for airplanes or to see an event. It was unusual to see someone who did not smoke, so these ashtrays received lots of use. The housekeeper would attend to one ashtray and then move to another of the tall silver sand-filled containers. Jeff could use his extraordinary talent to scope out things like this. Jeff knew what he could do was a God-given talent. When Jeff entered puberty, he began to realize how gifted he was. Once he realized this special gift was in fact special, he began to hone it to perfection. Jeff's eyes and mind started blocking out everything else as he zeroed in on this orchestrated movement of people. Occasionally, Jeff would use his talent for fun when he knew no harm would come because of it. He decided this was the time and place, with the housekeeper being the recipient. The public address announcer called out the boarding for the departure of Pan American to Istanbul and Europe. Passengers began to jockey for a position in line, and it was absolutely no surprise to Jeff that the housekeeper cleaning the ashtrays was cleaning the container near the boarding line. As Jeff passed the housekeeper, he gave a quick smile and whispered, "You are a New York City undercover detective and originally from Alabama." Jeff did not look back as he hurried down the boarding line, fighting the temptation to look back at what he knew would be a look of amazement coming from the housekeeper. Doing this to the housekeeper, who in fact was a New York City undercover detective, looking for a fugitive the authorities believed was trying to get out of the country. Having fun with his talent was nothing new to Jeff. He had used his gift for fun more times than he should. He was always battling with himself to keep the fun part of the gift in check, especially now that he was working for the government. Jeff began to think how he was able to keep this gift a secret until he joined the military. And then, let's see, I lost my place. He was able to keep it a secret until he joined the military, and then a very smart commander recognized Jeff's amazing talent. This commander was part of MI7 contingent in the military, and after that commander submitted his report about Jeff, they started watching and documenting every move he made. Jeff was so talented, MI7 took all the precautions they could come up with to keep their surveillance a secret from Jeff. Even then, the reports coming back to headquarters said Jeff probably knew what they were doing. The difficulty of observing the man with the unusual talent increased Jeff's stock with the company. During the interviewer told Jeff that most of the people assigned to observe him were amazed and could hardly believe anyone could do what he could do.